So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Who back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Friday, September 17th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day. Yesterday, it is in fact Friday, September 17th here today. Coming off another big night in sports last night. Actually, the last two nights were big nights in sports. I apologize that I was not able to do a podcast on Wednesday or Thursday. My setup got a little, caught up and I was not able to use it. So I had to kind of revert again, and I'm in a different setup here, although this isn't really a setup. You're not going to be able to see me. You can only see my sign today. I'm just going to do kind of a voice today, kind of more like a radio. So I'll still be uploading this on YouTube, but you won't be able to see me. You'll just be able to hear me, not see me like usual. So this might be like this for a little bit. I would assume I'm probably back in my other setup relatively soon. My setup that I usually do my pods from, that I've been doing it for all this time, still going to be out of commission for a little bit. But the setup that I just started using for the past 2 weeks, that I should be able to get back in, probably sometime next week. And this setup is not really set up. You can only hear my voice. But we are got a lot to get to today on this podcast. I've missed the past 2 days, so I kind of have a lot to talk about, a lot to get to in terms of the sports world. I'm going to try my best to get to it all. I'm going to try my best to talk about it all. It's a lot of sports. It's a lot of things that happen. That's great. I'd rather be talking about a lot than nothing at all. So it's great that we do have a lot of sports and have a lot of stuff to talk about. Last night, really good football game on. Yankees as well were on last night. Just another brutal loss for the Yankees. And I know we took 2 out of 3. And, last I did a podcast, which was on Tuesday. I was talking about how we needed to win 3 straight games for them and how we needed to sweep them. Well, we got the job done Tuesday. We got the job done Wednesday. And yesterday, just could not get the job done. And it was yet again last night where, we're winning. And it's one of those losses again where you're winning, you have the game, you're 1 strike away, you're 1 out away, 2-2 count. Oh, you were 1 strike away. We're not talking 1 out away. We're not talking a double play away. We're not talking you took the lead into the 9th inning. We're talking about you were 1 strike away from winning that game, leaving Baltimore, heading back home to start up a 3-game set, a weekend series against Cleveland, and you're not able to get it done. And that is super frustrating as a fan. It's super frustrating, I'm sure, for the players. And when you're trying to make a playoff push and you're trying to get to the playoffs and you're trying to win games and you need to win games and you're now a half a game back from the playoffs. So if the season would end today, the New York Yankees would be on their way to vacation. They would be on their way to having the month of October off and watching the playoffs on television rather than being in them. And the Yankees got to get back in the race because we're not going to be able to, there's going to be a lot of changes going to be made if we don't make the playoffs, and let alone really if we don't win the World Series, because that's the expectation. That's what we were expected to do. But I think we're far from that right now. So Yankees, tough loss yesterday. Got to find a way to be better, because you're not going to be able to, make the playoffs if you don't win. So we got to find a way to be better. We got to be much better than what we were. Lose yesterday, so they'll start up a 3-game set today against Cleveland. Mets also open up a 3-game set against Philly. They had a day off yesterday after the Cardinals series, so they'll start up a 3-game set today. I don't know how much it means for either team. I know it means a lot for Philly, but I don't really think Philadelphia's chances are all that great. So I'm going to stand on the side of probably going to be a kind of one of those series that, in the end, not going to probably mean a ton, but, we'll see how everything plays out there. And then you look at the you look at that series and the Yankees to open up a series against Cleveland as well. So, this is a big series for the Yankees. I talk about this. Big series against Baltimore. Took 2 out of 3 of them. You win the series, but against Baltimore, it's expected to sweep them. And now a big series against Cleveland, because after this, guess what? You got 3 against Boston, 3 against Toronto, and 3 against Tampa, and that's your season. Your season, that's it right there. So Yankees got to get a win this weekend. They got to find a way to at least take the series. I would actually be okay with us taking 2 out of 3 against Cleveland because Cleveland's a much better baseball team than the Orioles. Cleveland's not, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not a playoff team, but they're not the worst team in baseball like the Orioles are. So I would actually be okay. I'd actually be happy if we took 2 out of 3 against Cleveland. Cleveland could be one of these teams that could come in here and take 2 out of 3 from us. So we got to find a way to get the win. Yankees, Mets tonight. Day off in terms of the NFL world. Last night was a great game. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to the Giants' struggles. Just another brutal loss for the New York Giants. They just got to be better, and you're not going to be able to be better if they continue to play their way they're playing. And, just another brutal loss last night. They're starting 0-2 again, and this is a team that just looks lost. And, what else can I say? Just another brutal and terrible loss for the New York Giants, and they got to be way better. And I'm going to get to a lot of that. The fan base isn't happy. Just not a lot of good things right now happening with the New York Giants, as they got to be much better than what they've shown, and we'll get to that. So topics for today, obviously given it's a Friday, big weekend ahead of us in terms of football. We'll get to we'll get to some of the football stuff. We'll get to the game picks, recap the Giants game, obviously give you a little bit of a more in-depth look at the Jets-Patriots game. Then we'll get to fantasy football advice, give you all the advice you need to know going into the weekend, injury updates, start, sit, all that good stuff, projections, matchups, my team, your team, all that good stuff. We'll get you ready for the big weekend ahead of us, week 2 of the NFL season, coming up this Sunday. And then we'll get to the New York sports update, and we'll finish off the podcast. A lot of things going on in New York sports. A lot of good things. Not all are positive. A lot negative, which tends to happen with New York sports. All these big market teams just can't seem to find success, so it happens a lot. But Giants lose, Yankees lose, Mets are struggling. Can the Jets be the team that turns things around? We'll preview that game and a whole lot more on the podcast today. With that being said, this is the BSN Arc podcast, and let's get right into it. Alrighty, so as I mentioned earlier, I talked about last night's game with the New York Giants and the New York Giants and the Washington football team. Great way to start off, the week 2 of the NFL season. By the way, before I kick things off here, I do just want to say this. I'm very, very honest when it comes to my game picks. I will not sit here and, since I did not do a pod yesterday, I won't sit here and, fake my pick and say, I picked this team even though I didn't. I won't do that. I've always been honest. I've always said there's been times where I will go into the weekend and I'll predict the game that weekend, like the Yankees. I always predict the games. I'll go into the Yankees game and be like, okay, I think we can win this one, or I think we will lose this one. I'm always very honest. So I'm being completely honest with you when I say this. I did predict Washington to win that game last night. I think the people who watch this podcast will know that I predicted Washington to win the game. And I did. I'm not lying at all. I'm being honest. I predict Washington. And I think we all know I did not predict the Giants to win last week. I predicted the Broncos. Broncos won. So why would I predict the Giants this week when I've been talking so highly of Washington this entire season, this entire offseason? So I did predict Washington to win. I didn't really give a score. I didn't give any of that. I will be honest there. So I didn't say if Washington was going to cover or not. I predicted them to win. I usually just give the score on the podcast. I didn't do that yesterday. I just predicted Washington to win. I've kind of said Washington was going to win since the beginning of the week. So I did say that Washington would win. So that moves my game pick record going into this week. I'm right now at a record of 8-9, and I'm 1-0 to start week 2. So it's not been the Thursday night games, because now first 2 weeks of the season I've gotten both Thursday night games right. Got the Buccaneers last week and got Washington last night. So I'm now 8-9 overall. My game picks went 7-9 in week 1, and I'm 1-0 to start off week 2. So that's the update on the game picks, and obviously I'll give you my rest of the game picks tonight, and then we'll give you the the Packers Lions Monday Night Football game picks on Monday. But let's get to the game last night, because last night's game, win-loss, tie, it was a great game. It was an awesome game last night. two NFC East rivals battling it out. Two teams that, aren't great by any means, but aren't, terrible. I mean, the Giants are terrible now. I mean, you look at how they played. But it was a great game. The results aside, Giants fan base aside, Washington fan base aside, as NFL fans, we can all agree that last night's game was a great game. It was an awesome game, and it was like I kind of said last week. If that's a sign of anything, week 2 is going to be another great week in football. Because last week, great week in football, a lot of really good games, a lot of good upsets. Same thing with this week. Starts off the week with a great Thursday night game. Last night was exactly that. And where do I even begin to talk about the New York Giants? So we'll get to Washington. They played a really good game. And I'll tell you what, Taylor Heinicke, I know he's only played 2 games with Washington. The wild card game started 2 games, rather. He's played in a total of 3, but wild card game against Tampa Bay, where they actually went head-to-head against Brady, who ended up going on to win the championship, Super Bowl, as we all know. Last week, he had to come in. Fitzpatrick got injured early in the game, so that doesn't count as a start, but he was in. And last night, he started. And I'll tell you what, Taylor Heinicke's making a little bit of a name for himself. He is. I'm telling you what, Washington, this isn't, any joke anymore. I mean, Taylor Heinicke is truly turning into a solid quarterback that maybe the NFL and we've all been kind of forgetting about. Because the guy has been a backup his entire career, has really never done much at all, and maybe this is kind of a running back that we're all forgetting, or quarterback rather, that we're all forgetting about. Because last night, he had a really good game. And we'll get to Washington, and we'll get to Heinicke, and we'll get to all that. But I really want to get to the Giants. Because another brutal loss for the New York Giants. And going into this season, we all knew that the Giants' strength was their defense, right? We all said, their defense, Bradbury this, the defense that, the defense this, and Patrick Graham, and this and that, and, they didn't want Patrick Graham to go for head coaching job interviews because he was so good, and they extended Leonard Williams. In the first 2 games, their defense has been terrible. And I'm going to say it again, terrible. Flat out awful. Their defense has been awful. Last night, as much as I don't think Jones is that good, and as much as I do beat up on Jones a lot on the show, because I think a lot of people overhype Daniel Jones, and I want to calm that hype down, Daniel Jones played a very good football game last night. I mean, he threw for 249 yards. He had a touchdown. His offensive line didn't help him out. He got sacked 4 times, but neither did his receivers, Darius Slayton dropping a wide open pass that would have won them the game. I mean, the offense played well. The offense did their job. Daniel Jones did his job. But the defense was flat out terrible. And to put the cherry on top of everything was the offside penalty on the kick that was missed. It wasn't like the kick went in. The kick was missed, and there was an offside penalty. Today, we wouldn't be talking about the offside penalty by Dexter Lawrence if he made that field goal. Because if he made it, they decline it, boom, game over, Washington wins. But the fact that he missed it, and then you hear that there was an offside penalty, I mean, let's be honest here. Maybe you're trying to block the kick, but what are you going offsides for on a field goal attempt? I mean, what are you doing? It's not like you're trying to rush the quarterback. I mean, what are you doing going offsides on a field goal attempt? I understand you're trying to maybe block it and stuff and maybe get a head start, maybe get in there and get your hands up, but let's be honest here. What are the chances of you blocking a field goal? The chances are so low. So what are you all jumpy for on the line of scrimmage? Especially in that point of the game where you knew if it goes in, it's game. If it misses, it's done. And you're jumpy and Dexter Lawrence jumps offside for absolutely no reason. I mean, it's a field goal attempt. And I'm not underrating field goal attempts and all that stuff and what it can mean in a game. But let's be honest here. I mean, it's a field goal attempt. And you're jumping off sides. That makes 0 sense to me. And that blew them the game. Because if he doesn't jump off sides, that's a missed kick. And today we're talking about a New York Giants victory over a very good Washington football team. So, the Giants defense has been awful. And this team's been undisciplined. They played undisciplined football yesterday. They're just not playing good football. I mean, they're playing just bad football. And there's no other way I could say it. And I'm going to sound like a broken record. I'm not a Giant fan, but I do go hard on New York sports because that's what my channel is, geared around New York sports. So I will talk highly of a New York sports team when they're doing well, but when they're doing bad, you're going to hear it. And you're hearing it right now. All this Joe Judge, he's changing the culture. He is? He is. This is this is like their fifth straight season of starting off 0-2. And there's a stat out there that when you start off 0-2, your chances of making the playoffs are like all the way down. And it's the truth. I mean, it is. And, the Giants, it doesn't get any easier from here. You do have, a matchup coming up against the Falcons, which is probably a win because the Falcons just look that bad. Unless if they turn things around this week, it's probably a win against Falcons. But then your schedule is brutal after that. And I mean brutal. Then you have the Saints, who I'm not crazy scared of, but if Winston's legit, that's a good Saints team. Then you have the Cowboys, then you have the Rams, Panthers, Chiefs, Raiders, and then you have a bye week, then the Bucs, Eagles, Dolphins, Chargers, Cowboys, Eagles, Bears, Washington. There's not many wins there. There isn't. And we knew going into the year the Giants were going to have a tough run. And now that they're 0-2, it looks even worse now that they're 0-2. And got to give credit where credit's due. Washington played a good football game. Was it their best game ever? No. Their defense could have been better. They made Daniel Jones look really good. But hey, they got the job done. And Taylor Heineke has become he's looking pretty good. And I know he's only played a couple games. He's been a backup his entire career, so I don't want to overhype things too much. But, he's looking pretty good. I know a lot of Washington fans want them to go out, maybe get Cam Newton and do all this stuff. No. I think you're fine with Taylor Heineke. I think you stick with him, and until the wheels fall off, maybe if they do, or maybe if this is just a couple week thing, I think you stick with him because he's looked really good. And I know that they have Fitz, over there. He's injured now, but I think there's a good chance that if Heineke continues to play well like this, he could be the starter moving forward. And, is he Mahomes? Is he the best quarterback in the league? No. But what I will tell you is he's looked solid, and he's looked like he can go out and win you some football games. And that's what he's done, and he did it again last night. He can go out, win you some football games, do the job, and he did that last night, and he's done it throughout the past couple, games that he's played here. And, we'll see how it continues to progress and if he continues to do well, or if this is something that maybe once teams start to catch on, it will struggle. But so far as a starter, he's looked like he can do, solid things and, go out and do the job. Do what the Washington needs him to do, and ultimately that's go out, give them a quality start, and, get the win. And Washington was able to do that yesterday. And another thing I want to say about the Giants, too, because the Giants were awful. But the thing I want to say about them, too, is their offensive line. And Nate Solder in particular, because he's been awful. They've signed him to that big deal, and he was just terrible. And he's been terrible ever since, and he's just not been the player. When they went out and signed him, made him one of the highest paid offensive linemen in the league, got him from New England, he was at the time one of the best offensive linemen in the league. They got him, gave him a ton of money, made him one of the highest paid offensive linemen in the league, and now we're talking about, him being arguably the worst offensive lineman on the Giants, and a guy who you just cannot keep throwing out there week in and week out. It's not working. He's letting up too many sacks, and, the Giants' offensive line continues to struggle, and it just continues to struggle. And there was multiple moments throughout this game where there was questionable moments with the offensive line. Nick Gates going down really hurt him. Overall, because I got to get to the game picks, this was a bad game for the Giants. Defense wasn't good. Offsides, not good. A lot of negatives from this game. Giants have got to be better. Washington with the win, 30-29. So that's the recap for that. And we'll see, however, everything else plays out with the Giants and all that stuff. It is only the second game of the season. You still got 15 more games to go. So, there's a lot of time left in this season. But if I've always been a guy that you always want to look at the big picture and take it week by week, game by game, quarter by quarter, play by play. But if you do look at the big picture, because sometimes, you got to start to do this when you're 0-2. Not many wins if the Giants continue to play like this. Not many wins ahead, even if the Giants are playing good, against the teams like the Chiefs and the Chargers and Washington again. those are not easy teams to beat, and the Giants got to figure out a way to turn this thing around. All right, with all that being said, let's get to the game picks for today's podcast. Last week I went 7-9. Yesterday I got the game pick right. I predicted Washington to defeat the Giants. They did just that. So I'm right now 8-9 on the season, heading into all the Sunday games and then obviously the Monday games. So with that being said, let's get into the game picks. I'm just going to go in order here how it is on this app. And let's get into it. All right, so we're starting off here with the San Francisco 49ers coming into this game at 1-0, and the Eagles coming into this game 1-0. The Niners are 3-point favorites. The over/under for this game is set at 49, and this game goes on today, comes on Sunday, 1 Eastern on Fox. So I'll tell you what, I don't think many people would have expected coming into this game that both teams would be 1-0. I think many of us expected San Francisco to be 1-0, but I don't think many people expected Philadelphia to be 1-0. And this is one of these games where you got to watch out if you're San Francisco, right? You're in a really good division there in the NFC West. Arizona, Seattle, and the Rams all won last week. You won, so all the teams in that division are 1-0. And you're looking at it, and it's like, this is one of these games that, when you get later on in the season, you look back on, this is a game you need to win. And, I get it. Philadelphia played really good week 1. They beat Atlanta. I'm not fully buying in. Now, I do believe Jalen Hurts is the answer, and I've said that since the day they drafted him. I said he was going to be the answer there after they traded Carson Wentz. And the day they drafted Jalen Hurts, I knew Jalen Hurts could be a really solid quarterback in the league. He was from Alabama, went to Oklahoma, was a really good player. I think he fell a lot in the draft going in the second round. But either way, that's besides the point. If you're the Niners here, you got to play the exact game you played last week. Because I'm not fully buying into the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to go out and win the NFC East and do all that. Maybe they will. But right now, I don't know if I'm going to fully buy into that. It's one game. It's week 1. They won. Yes, they did. But let's see them against a better defense. Let's see them against a better overall team. I'm not fully buying into the Eagles' hype yet. What I am buying into, though, is this really nice running back in Elijah Mitchell. Had a really good week last week. He's going to get bigger carries now that Raheem Mostert's done for the season. There are still some questions surrounding Jimmy Garoppolo and the quarterback situation there, but he made it work last week, had a good week. Receiving core looked good. Overall, this Niners team, I think, is just better. And you look at the records, and they're the same. But I think they're just a better football team. There's not really one spot of the team that, makes me pick the Niners other than the Eagles. I just think the Niners are the better football team. Give me the San Francisco 49ers. They'll win 31-17. I'll take the under on the over-under. Actually, take that back. 31-21. I'll take the over on the over-under 49, and I think the Niners cover. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout 10-point game. I actually think this is going to be one of those games where it's a 3-point game and maybe the Niners score a late touchdown to put the game to bed. Niners win. Next up here, we got the Bengals and the Bears. Bears come into this game 0-1. Bengals come into this game with a big victory against Minnesota. They are 1-0. The Bears come in this game 2.5-point favorites, and the over-under is set at 45.5. This also comes on 1 Eastern Sunday on Fox. We saw the Chicago Bears last week in full effect. I mean, they look terrible. They did not look good. They look like a really bad football team. And frankly, they look like a team that needed help. And and Andy Dalton looked really, really bad. And I've been an advocate past couple of weeks here all season long. I get it, he's a rookie, and I get it, you might want him to develop, and I get all that. But I've been an advocate, you got to start Andy Dalton. Or you got to start Justin Fields. Before this season gets completely out of hand, and before this season gets to the point where it's just completely done, you got to find a way to... Andy Dalton's just not the guy. And I get it. People say, you could develop and, let's wait some time. Okay, personally, for Matt Nagy's job in general, if he wants to save his job, he's got to get Fields in there. Number one, the fan base will back the decision. Number two, it's showing that you want to see what your future holds and you want to see what this team can be capable of with Fields. And number three, before this season for Chicago completely gets out of hand, you got to get Fields in there. And until then, I don't trust Chicago. And last week, they looked bad. Andy Dalton's a below-average quarterback. I understand he played last season and didn't play terrible. He did his job. I mean, he came into a tough situation in Dallas, Dak going down, really terrible injury, having to finish out the rest of the season. Did he play good? Not really. Did he play bad? No, he was what did you expect out of Andy Dalton last year? And the same thing this season. The Bears have got to turn the tables and go to Justin Fields. Before this season gets out of hand and before it gets to where they're 1-4 and then you decide to put Fields out there, they got to get Fields out there. And until they do, I don't think the Bears will win. I actually think the Bengals win this game. And I understand they're 2.5-point underdogs, which I strongly disagree with. The Bengals looked really good last week. Now, my one issue with the Bengals is, and it still is an issue, is their offensive line. Because last week, Joe Burrow did get sacked. He did have some plays where he was getting pressured. Their offensive line is still an issue. But until the Bengals fix their offense and get Andy Dalton out there, not only is Andy Dalton going to struggle, not only is this team going to struggle, but if you look at the guys around Dalton, the receivers are going to struggle. Mooney, Robinson, Kmet, all those guys are going to struggle. I know Kmet had a touchdown and all that, but Andy Dalton is not the guy in Chicago. They got to turn the page and get the Fields. And until then, I think the Bengals will win, and they win pretty comfortably as well. 28-14, Bengals win. I'm taking the over on the over-under of 40, or under on the over-under of 45.5, and I think the Bengals are giving them the points here, as I think they are coming as the underdog and win this game. Bengals win. Next up here, we got the Bills and the Dolphins. Bills come into this game 0-1. Dolphins come in this game 1-0. So a little bit of a big AFC East rival early in the season here. Bills are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 47.5. This also comes on 1 Eastern on Fox on Sunday. This is a very good game and a very big game early on in the season. If the Dolphins win this game, that's pivotal. Not only because they defeat the Bills, a very good team, but they defeat 2 division opponents in a row. New England last week, and then if they would to defeat Buffalo this week. And if you look at the Bills, they need to get in the win column. If they lose this week, you're talking about a team that has Super Bowl expectations, Super Bowl, hope, Super Bowl predictions. You're talking about a team that has the roster to make the Super Bowl. If they start off 0-2, that's the last thing you want. That is the absolute last thing you want. That's, that means that you're going to have to climb your way back. That means you're going to have to kind of, hit the restart button a little bit and figure out what's going on. So this is a big game for both teams. And I think for the Bills, they're going to be coming into this game with a little bit of a sense of urgency. I know that it's one game, and I understand that. But when you go into a season with the expectation that the Bills have this year, and that is to not only make the playoffs, but have a real shot at winning a Super Bowl. You lose the first week, that's tough. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow. And then if you lose the week after that, it's going to be even tougher. And if you lose after that, it's like, oh gosh, you're 0-3. And I don't want to look at the big picture too much. But the Bills are going to come into this game, I think, with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder and a little bit of sense of urgency in the way of kind of saying, like, hey, we lost last week. We blew it. We had the game in the bag. We weren't able to get the job done. We got to turn around this week and get the job done. And then the Bengals on the other side, home opener, coming off of a really nice win against New England. It's like both teams are going to come into this with a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, a little bit of a battle of Allen, Tua. Could that be the, little bit of a rivalry in the making for the future, given that both are very young into their career? I think this is going to be a very close game. And I know Buffalo lost last week, and I understand that. And they did have some really tough moments in the game. But I do think Buffalo still gets the win just because I think their offense has the slight advantage. Don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, though. 24-21, Buffalo wins with a late field goal. Buffalo wins, does not cover the 3.5. I'm taking the under on the over-under of 47.5. I think Buffalo just squeaks one out in Miami and gets a win to move to 1-1. Buffalo Bills win. Next up here, we got the Denver Broncos and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Broncos coming in this game 6-point favorites. They're 1-0. And the Jaguars coming in this game 0-1. The over-under is set at 45. This game comes on 1 Eastern on CBS. Alrighty, so we saw the Broncos last week in full display against the Giants. Teddy Bridgewater looked really good. Defense looked really good. Made a lot of really big plays. Bridgewater just looked so comfortable. And I was talking to many people throughout the week. Bridgewater against the Giants last week he looked the most comfortable I think I've ever seen since he tore his ACL in the 2015 season 2015-2016 season in Minnesota. Since he tore his ACL with the Vikings, last week was the most comfortable and the most Teddy Bridgewater-like game I've ever seen out of him. Since, he tore his ACL, he's been iffy, he's been all right, not as mobile. Last week looked like the Teddy Bridgewater we saw, and we were all really excited to see what his career could turn into in Minnesota. And I don't know if it's just because it was against the Giants in week 1, the adrenaline, the energy. I don't know if it was that or if it was just the fact that Teddy Bridgewater might actually have found a home in Denver. And maybe that is the case. And I don't want to look too much into it because it was week 1. But Teddy Bridgewater looked really good. And I'll tell you what, Jacksonville last week looked really, really bad. They could not stop Tyrod Taylor. They could not stop the Houston Texans. Lawrence made a lot of good throws, but he made a lot of really bad throws. And if he makes those bad throws again, he's going to get really caught because Denver defense is much better than Houston. I think Denver wins this one, and I think they win it easily. 31-10. Denver wins. Take the under on the over-under of 45, and I think Denver clearly covers the 6 points. Broncos win. Next up here, we got the Steelers and the Raiders. Raiders coming off of 2 really good games. Steelers defeating the Bills. Raiders defeating the Ravens on Monday night. Both teams were underdogs going into last week. Were able to get the job done in their respective games. Steelers coming in this game 6.5 point favorites. Raiders coming in this game underdogs at the 6.5. The over-under is set at 47. This is on 1 Eastern on CBS. I'll tell you this about the Steelers. I was pleasantly surprised at the way they played overall last week. We all know how good their defense is, and TJ Watt and Joe Hayden and Minkah Fitzpatrick and all that. We all know that. We know how good their defense is. But it was the way the offense, especially late in that game against Buffalo, because they were trailing, and especially late in the game, how they were able to turn it around and really turn the game into, being trailing to having to come back to really turning it around to making where they put all the pressure on Buffalo and put pressure on Buffalo and were able to get the job done. I also like what I saw out of Las Vegas last week in terms of how they played defense, how they were able to come back. I thought Derek Carr looked really good. I thought he made a lot of really good throws, and they really struggled early on, and they really were able to finish strong. Steelers struggled early on, finished strong. Both these teams coming in this game just about even. I would say both these teams are an even team. Raiders' strength, their defense is pretty solid. Offense is inconsistent. Steelers just overall, I don't have a great offense, but their defense is elite and up there at the top of the league. I think Steelers win this game in one reason and one reason only. They have home field advantage. Heinz Field's going to be rocking. I just think they have a little bit of the advantage. They're home. I think I just give the edge a little bit to the defense. I think they'll be able to slow down Derek Carr and that Raiders offense just enough. I think Steelers win. I don't think they cover, but I think they win 17-14. Low-scoring defensive game. Pittsburgh wins. The under on the over-under of 47. Pittsburgh wins. They win, but I don't think they cover, but they do win. Alrighty, so 3 more 1 o'clock games. Then we'll get to the 4 o'clock games here. We got the Rams and Colts comes on 1 Eastern on Fox. Rams are 3.5 point favorites. Colts are underdogs. The over-under is set at 48.5. I thought Wentz looked really good last week, I got to admit. Despite them losing, despite the result not being a W, I thought Wentz had a really good week, and I thought that was probably the best Carson Wentz we've really seen, and you could say 2 years. I mean, he just wasn't the same quarterback with Philadelphia after his torn ACL. Really struggled last season. Year before that wasn't good. I'll tell you what, last week looked, I think, the best Carson Wentz we've seen pre-torn ACL. And I think a lot of people can agree with me, just the way he was delivering the ball. He was using his legs a little bit more, looked more comfortable in the pocket. And I don't know if that's a trust factor between him and the offensive line, or if that's just him in a new system, or just him overall just being much better, or if it's just the fact that maybe Wentz, I don't know what it is. I think it could be accumulation of a lot of things. I think it could be, the system and maybe that, or I think it could be the offensive line, or maybe Carson Wentz just is a better quarterback, changes scenery. It could be many things. But I did like what I saw out of Carson Wentz. But I also like what I saw out of Rams. And, I like this Rams defense a lot. You all know how I feel about Matt Stafford. I'm not crazy high on the guy. I really don't. I'm not saying he's not going to be good, but, all these people saying, oh, MVP and oh, Super Bowl and oh, their odds are, I'm not buying into all that. What I will tell you is this. He had a very good game last week. The Colts defense last week struggled a little bit against Seattle. Matt Stafford looked good. I'm going to admit that. They gave him some weapons. He looked good. I do think the Rams win this one. I just think the Rams defense mostly is what leans me towards winning this game. I think Donald will be able to get some pressure. I think it's going to be a good matchup. Donald versus that Colts offense line, good matchup to watch. I do think the Rams win. I think they win pretty comfortably too. 31-21, Rams win. I'll take the over on the over-under 48.5, and I think the Rams cover the 3.5 points. Rams win. Alrighty, next up here we got the Saints and the Panthers. Saints come in this game 3.5 point favorites. Panthers come in this game the underdogs. The over-under is set at 44.5. This game goes on 1 Eastern on Fox. Well, both these teams coming off of really nice wins last week. We all saw Jameis Winston with the 5 touchdowns, and as I know as a Jet fan, were able to defeat us week 1 as they were able to defeat the Jets 19-14. So both these teams are coming off of wins. Both these teams with new quarterbacks had good performances last week. Darnold had a good, respected performance last week, and Winston really just, I think, took the NFL by storm and thrown 5 touchdowns. And I don't think many people saw that coming for Winston, and I don't think many people predicted it. And if you did, congrats, good for you. That's a wild prediction. But I'll tell you this. I mean, the Saints look good, and that could be a fluke, and maybe it is, but it wasn't like they were playing against Atlanta, or it wasn't like they were playing against Houston or Jacksonville or one of the really bad defenses out there, or the Cowboys. They went up against Green Bay, who last season went to the NFC Championship game, and Winston threw 5 touchdowns. And the most important thing that I took from last week's game from New Orleans, because I've said this, I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, I've said this many times. Us as fans aren't doubting Winston's arm talent. We're not doubting his touchdown ability. We're not doubting his big playmaking ability. That we all know is very good. He's actually really, really good in those categories. What we're doubting, though, is his turnovers and not being able to take care of the football, especially in big moments. And we saw that a lot with Tampa. He'll throw 4 touchdowns in a game, but follow that up with 3 interceptions as well. Last week was one of his first clean weeks we've seen in a while. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. And I like Darnold a lot. He looked good last week. I just think in terms of what to take more, I think you got to take more out of the Saints just because they were playing against a better team, better roster. I mean, the Packers are better than the Jets, people. I'm going to admit it. It's not rocket science, okay? They're better than the Jets. I just think the Saints are the better team. And in this, I do think the Saints win. Now, I was wrong about the Saints, because what I saw last week was a playoff team. I did. And I still don't believe that they're going to be that great, but I do think the Saints win this game. I think they win 28-24. I think it's close. I don't think Jameis Winston throws 5 touchdowns again. I don't. I think he's back to earth a little bit, but I do think he has a nice, solid performance. And, this is a Panthers defense that I would say Green Bay is probably better. So, if anything, Winston can only do, I guess, somewhere near what he did. I can't see why he would only do worse this week. I mean, I think Green Bay's got a better defense than Carolina. Give me the Saints. 28-24. I'll take the over on the over-under 44.5, and I think they just cover the 3.5 point Saints win. Alrighty, so next here we got the Browns and the Texans. Browns come in this game 0-1. Texans come in this game 1-0. Browns are 13-point favorites. Over-under is set at 48. And this game goes on 1 Eastern on CBS. Okay, I'm going to be quick with this. I mean, let's be honest here. I know Houston won last week. I understand that. And I get it. They played well. Tyrod Taylor actually played really well. And I'm not taking anything away from him. But let's be honest here. Houston is, I mean, maybe they do. But I don't think they're going to go in to Cleveland. Cleveland's home. Team who almost beat the Chiefs last week and going to go beat Cleveland. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't. Maybe I'm wrong and prove me wrong, Houston. But I think Cleveland wins comfortably. 35-10 Cleveland. I'll take the under on the over-under 48. I think the Browns cover this game easily. All right, so now we get to the 4 o'clock games here. Then we'll get to Sunday night game. To start off here, two easy picks here, I believe. Buccaneers, Falcons. Bucs come in this game 1-0. Falcons come in this game 0-1. Bucs are 12.5-point favorites. The over-under is set at 51. This game goes on today on Sunday, 4:05 Eastern on Fox. Another game that I think is relatively straightforward in terms of the game pick. I think the Bucs win this game. I don't really think there's much of a question. Falcons looked terrible last week. They are in a rebuild. They're entering a big rebuild. Matt Ryan looked bad. I mean, one of the things I've always said about Falcons, and I said at the beginning of the year, like, I think the Falcons have a solid roster of guys. Like, they have some good players. Ridley, they got some guys on that team. They've got some talent. We're not doubting it. It's just, Matt Ryan's so up and down. He'll have some good games. He'll have some really bad games. And that's kind of the sign of getting towards the tail end of your career, where you kind of have these stretches of really good, really bad, really good, really bad. And last week he was really bad. And if anything, it'd only get worse because he's going up against a Bucs defense that's very good. So I think the Bucs win this game, and I think they win comfortably, 38-7. Now, yeah, I'll give the Falcons a late touchdown, 38-7. I'm gonna take the under on the over/under of, or take the over. No, the under on the over/under of 51. I think the Bucs win, and they cover the 12.5 easily. Alrighty, next up here, we got the Cardinals and the Vikings. Cardinals come in this game 4-point favorites. Vikings come in this game 0-1, and they're the underdogs. Cardinals are 1-0. Murray coming off a big week. The over/under is set at 50.5. This game goes on today, Sunday, 4:05 Eastern on Fox. I'll tell you this. Okay, Cardinals played really well last week. We saw great performances out of Kyler Murray. We saw a great performance out of Chandler Jones. I mean, just a performance that we don't see very often. I mean, that's a performance that just is unbelievable. I mean, 2 sacks is really good. He had 5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles in that game. I mean, that's a performance that you don't see often. That's a history-making performance. I mean, that will go down in the history. I mean, not many players out there have gotten 5 sacks in one game. Many guys, that's their total for the year, and they're satisfied with that total. Chandler Jones obviously has other plans. Minnesota's going to come into this game fired up. Because I'll tell you what, that last game was a punch in the gut. You give the ball to Dalvin Cook, arguably one of the best running backs in the league. He fumbles it. And then on 3rd down or whatever, I think it was 3rd or 4th down, busted coverage in the secondary. Burrow delivered it to, I think, the tight end for like a 30-yard game, got into field goal range, and that was the game. The Vikings had that game wrapped up in the bag. Dalvin Cook holds on to the ball, or if they don't let that 1st down happen, it's at least a tie, or at least they get the ball back with like maybe 30 seconds left. They hurt themselves last game. They shot themselves in the foot last game. That's really what happened. So, they're going to come in this game fired up because they're going to have to play mistake-free football if they want to beat Arizona. Because Arizona last week looked legit. Kyler Murray looked legit. And this defense struggled against the Bengals. And nothing against the Bengals. They played well. And I do think the Bengals will win this week. But the Cardinals' offense is much better than the Bengals. And there's not much else I can say about that. I mean, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, look at the running back, look at the offense line. They're a good offense. It's been the defense that's been the question mark. So if the Vikings want to win this game, they got to limit the mistakes. They got to limit the fumbles. They got to eliminate the busted coverage. And they, most of all, got to get to the quarterback. Because last week they did that, and they were able to keep themselves in the game. They got to do the same thing this week if they want to win. But I just think Arizona's the better team. I really do. And I think not even just with the better team, I don't know how you can't pick Arizona after your quarterback had an MVP type performance and your defense lineman had one of the greatest performances we've seen in the past decade. So I don't see why you can't give Arizona the win here. I'm going to give them the win. I don't know if it will be as pretty as last week, but I do think they'll win, and I think they win 31-17. I'll take the over on the under on the over-under 50.5, and I think the Cardinals cover, and I think the Cardinals win. All right, 3 more games here, then we'll get to the Jets. We got the Chargers and the Cowboys. Chargers come in this game 3.5-point favorites. They're 1-0. Cowboys are 0-1. The over-under is set at 55.5. This game goes on today, on Sunday, 4:25 Eastern on CBS. I'll tell you this. Even though Bucks did beat the Cowboys, but even though the Cowboys lost to the Bucks last week, and even though you had Greg Zuerlein missing all those kicks, and it probably should have been a win, and I'm not going to sit here and play the card of, they played well, but, and I am going to play I'm going to do it a little bit. But I think there was a lot to like last week, even though the Cowboys lost. And sure, it's still a loss, and They should have won. That game should have been won. If Greg Zuerlein doesn't miss those kicks, we're talking about the Cowboys coming into this game 1-0, and the Buccaneers, we're talking about them looking for their first win against Atlanta. Instead, it's the opposite. But I think there was a lot to like. I thought the Cowboys played a relatively well game. And, if it was never for, the missed kicks by Zuerlein and, the late touchdown by Brady and all that stuff, they win that game. So, that might sound like a cap and obvious answer because you could always say, oh, well, yeah, if we didn't let up this and that. But, it's the truth. I thought the Cowboys last week played a good, solid football game. Like, they played a good, solid football game. And it just, against any other team, they probably win that game. But it's the fact that you're going against the defending champions in the Bucs, who are not a bad team. So I actually like the Cowboys in this game, and I've spoke very highly of the Chargers this season. I have, and I can't believe I'm doing this because I'm a big believer in Justin Herbert. I really think he's gonna have another big season. I just really think he's gonna have another big year, and I'm pretty shocked that I'm picking the Chargers to lose 2 weeks in a row. And even though the Cowboys are 0-1, and even though they lost and people can joke and make fun, the Cowboys, there was a lot to like last week. I thought their defense was good. I thought Dak looked good. I thought the receivers looked good. Zuerlein makes his kicks. Cowboys are 1-0. Don't know much else I could say. Chargers, on the other end, they played well last week as well, but I just think the Cowboys are going to win this game. That's my personal kind of thought on this. I just think they're going to win this game. I do. Maybe I'm wrong and maybe the Chargers come out and win, but I just think the Cowboys, the way they played last week, put them against another team, they win the game. Zuerlein makes his kicks. I think the Cowboys win. And I'm going to give the Cowboys the win. I think they win 31-28. I think it's going to be close. I'll take the over on the over-under of 55. And I think they will win this game. So flip that points and give it to the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys will win. All right, 2 more games left here. Then we'll get to the Jets, and we got to fantasy and wrap up the podcast. We got the Titans and the Seahawks. Seahawks come in this game 6.5-point favorites. Titans come in this game 0-1, and the over-under is set at 54.5. Seahawks are 1-0. Titans are 0-1. This game goes on today, or on Sunday, rather. I don't know why I keep saying today. Today's Friday. This game goes on Sunday, 4:25 Eastern on CBS. We all know how much the Titans struggled last week. And you're talking about a Titans team last week who really underachieved. And a team who I'm very high on. And I've said this many times throughout, the offseason, even last week, and even this week. I still believe that this Titans offense has potential to be elite and be one of the best in the league. A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, Tannehill, good solid tight end, Julio. I still believe this offense has potential to be elite. I know they struggled last week, and I know there was some really bad moments. Henry did not do good. Tannehill had some turnovers. They just overall did not play a good game. But I do think they'll play better this game. The only thing that's holding me back with the Titans is their defense. And I liked what I saw last week out of a Seahawks offense against a really good Colts defense. What I liked most about the Seahawks last week was they played a very balanced offense. They weren't too run heavy. They weren't too pass heavy. That's how they defeated the Colts. Because if you want to defeat good defenses, you need to be balanced. You need to keep them on their heels. Because if you start to rely on passing too much or running too much, they're going to start to adjust, and they're going to make the adjustment, and they're going to stop. They're going to stop you. Seahawks did not allow that to happen last week. They were able to defeat a very good defense in Indianapolis. And I know how good this Titans offense has potential to be, but I think the Seahawks win this game. I just don't trust the defense in Tennessee enough to give them a win, especially after what I saw last week as they got smoked by Arizona. Give me the Seahawks, and I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be relatively decent scoring, 28-24. Seahawks score with a late touchdown. Defense breaks, and the Seahawks will win 28-24. I'll take the under on the over-under 54.5, and I think the Seahawks don't cover this. I don't think the Seahawks cover the 6.5, but I do think the Seahawks win. And the final game up here is the Sunday night game, Chiefs-Ravens. Chiefs come in this game 3.5-point favorites. Ravens come in this game 54.5. Well, the opposite happened for both these teams last week. Despite one winning and the other one losing, one came from behind and the other one blew a lead. The Chiefs last week coming from behind against Cleveland, and Baltimore blowing a lead and letting the Raiders come from behind last week. So two teams coming into this week, completely different scenarios. One's 1-0, the other one's 0-1. One came back, the one let up a comeback, that being the Chiefs coming back and the Ravens letting up the comeback to the Raiders. And I said this last week. I thought Ravens were going to win last week on Monday Night Football, but I'm just overall concerned with the Ravens in general with no running back. I mean, they rely so heavily on their running back, and they rely so heavily on their running game. When your top three backs go down, there's just a lot of issues. And I saw last week. I mean, there was the 3 fumbles by Jackson and just some sloppy play, and letting up big plays by Carr late in the game, and a lot of the injuries really just showed out on Monday night. And healthy run game or a not healthy run game, Lamar Jackson out there or no Lamar Jackson, it's hard enough to beat the Chiefs. And I think it's even harder when you are injured, when you have as many injuries as the Ravens do, and when it's key positions like the cornerback and like the running back, and I mean their offense is so geared around the running game. When you have all these injuries, it's a big loss. I just don't know if they're gonna have enough to defeat the Chiefs. Now, sure, are they gonna all of a sudden have a terrible year? No, but going against the Chiefs, I don't know if they have enough guys and enough talent to defeat the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs win. I think they win relatively comfortably, 31-21. I think the Chiefs win. I'll take the under on the over-under of 54.5, and I think the Chiefs cover the 3.5. I think the Chiefs will win, and I will preview the Packers-Lions game on Monday. So that's my game picks for the week. And now we get to the Jets here. Jets-Patriots. So Jets come into this game 0-1. Patriots come in this game 0-1 as well. It's kind of an odd way to say things. Even last year they won the first game, but both Jets and Patriots are searching for their first win. Patriots come in this game 6-point favorites. The over-under is set at 42.5. This game goes on on Sunday, 1 Eastern on CBS. So 88% of people think the Patriots will win this game. The injury report, we all know how the Jets have with injuries and some of those injuries like that. I detailed those earlier in the week. Well, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but let's be honest here. I mean, both the Jets and the Patriots are coming into similar situations, right? Zach Wilson, Mac Jones looking for their first wins. Robert Saleh looking for his first win, not only of the season, but his head coaching career. And Bill Belichick looking to avoid a 2-0 start. And because that doesn't happen often with Belichick, and if it does, that's not going to be a fun locker room to be in. Because, Bill Belichick, all these years of winning, and if you were to lose this game, it's going to be bad because, that's 2 division losses then you're 0-2. And if the Jets were to win this game, this is pivotal. So it's actually a pretty good matchup early on. And I like how the NFL slotted this matchup in because, it's 2 rookie quarterbacks. I think many people had the feeling that there was a good chance that both went into the game not getting the win week 1. I did predict the Jets to beat the Panthers last week, but I did say that it was going to be a close game. I wasn't fully sold on the Jets beating the Panthers. I said they would, but I didn't think that they were going to smoke them and destroy them. And I did say the Dolphins were going to beat the Patriots, but there was still that chance of the Patriots beating the Dolphins. Because I don't think the Dolphins are the greatest team ever. I think they're a good team, but they're beatable. So both these teams coming here trying to find their first wins. And Jets home opener, I think it's going to be a pretty good crowd. Here's my thing with the Jets is you gotta protect Wilson. I mean, there's not much else I could say. You have to protect Wilson. I mean, everyone could say, oh, Wilson's got to do this and that, and this defense got to do this, and you got to contain Mac Jones, and Belichick's got to do this and that. It's simple as this, people. If the Jets want to win this game, Wilson can't get sacked 6 times. I mean, it's as simple as that. And it's easier said than done because the Patriots actually have a pretty good defense. But the Jets got to protect Wilson. And I'm going to be saying that all year long until it gets fixed. So 6 sacks can't happen. It just cannot. Last week, it happened. We lost. This week, can't happen. Because I'll tell you what, if it happens, this Patriots team is going to make you pay for it. They are. They're going to make you pay for it. So you can't let up these 6 sacks. And if you're New England, and if you're New England here, you want to see what Mac Jones can do. Mac Jones up against a good defense last week, going up against a little bit of a younger defense this week. Kind of youth on youth. A lot of youth in this game. All the years of Patriots winning, it's kind of looking like they're entering a little bit of a rebuild stage. I'm not saying that they're going to be terrible, but I don't think they're winning a Super Bowl this year. And then they're entering a little bit of a stage where it's kind of a little bit of a reset mode. Got a rookie quarterback, got some young guys on the roster. My biggest thing with the Jets is this. If you can protect Wilson, I think we win this game. That's my thing. If we protect Wilson, we win last week. If we protect Wilson this week, we win this game. There's not much else I could say. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as protecting your quarterback. That could be the decider on whether or not the Jets are coming out, whether or not on Monday we're talking about the New York Jets winning or the New York Jets losing. It's going to be whether or not the offensive line steps up and plays better than they did last week. And as much as I hope I'm wrong, because I want the Jets to win every game, and I want the Jets to have a great season. I want all my teams to do that. I think the Patriots win this game. And I'm going to tell you why. The Jets just can't seem to beat the Patriots. The roster's going to be completely different. I understand we're not facing Tom Brady. Last year we faced Newton. Now we're facing Mac Jones. So it's a different quarterback, different team, a lot of different guys. The Jets just can't seem to beat the Patriots. And maybe it's different under Saleh, and maybe it's different under this new regime with the Jets, but we just can never seem to beat the Patriots. And I hope I'm wrong, but just the history and the overall skill set of both rosters, I do think New England wins this game. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Jets win, but I do think New England does win. I will think Patriots will win. I actually don't think they cover, though. I will tell you that. 24-17. I apologize. 28-21. Or I actually think they cover. My bad. I thought it was 7. 6-point favorites are they? I thought it was 7. So they would have technically perfectly covered, but I think they win 28-21. Patriots win. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just kind of how I see it, if you will. Or actually 24-17. I'll give it 24-17. I think the Patriots cover, and I will take the under on the over-under of 42.5. I just think, I just think that, as much as I hope I'm wrong, I think there's that part of me that just the history just tells us is just, I don't know. It just is what it is. But I'll take the under on the over-under 42.5. I think the Patriots win. I think they cover. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I think it's going to be close. But that's my pick. So, Wilson, got to get protected. He's got to go out, make good throws like he did last week. He did his job last week. Offensive line's going to step up and do theirs if we want to win. So that's my Jets pick. The rest of the picks are, I have the 49ers winning, Bengals winning, Bills winning, Broncos winning, Steelers winning, Rams winning, Saints winning, Browns winning, Buccaneers winning, Cardinals winning, Cowboys winning, Seahawks winning, and the Chiefs winning. I'll read that one more time. 49ers winning, Bengals winning, Bills winning, Broncos winning, Steelers winning, Rams winning, Saints winning, Browns winning, Bucks winning, Cardinals winning, Cowboys winning, Seahawks winning, and the Chiefs winning, and we'll preview the Packers-Lions game on Monday night. All right, let's get to fantasy football here and baseball, and we'll finish off the podcast and head into another big weekend of sports ahead of us. So last night I had, in my one league, I had Antonio Gibson going. Did not do the job, did terrible, got me 6 points. Non-PPR leagues, so I only got 6 points. PPR leagues, I believe he got 9, so he didn't really do much. But he got me 6 points. Not really good. I mean, not really what I was hoping for, not what I wanted. Just frustrating because I hate Thursday night games in the way that, I don't, not that I don't like them, but I just don't like them playing fantasy players because It's either they have a great week and it starts off your lineup for the week and it looks good, or they have a bad week and it's like, oh, I'm already starting off this week on the wrong foot. And I'm still projected to win 110 to 108. I have 51% chance of winning now. This is my non-PPR league, so I had a 53% chance. So that obviously lowered after Gibson only was able to get me 6 points. I mean, it is what it is. Just Heineke really took over. Gibson had 13 carries, and in those 13 carries, just wasn't able to get enough done. But this is my lineup for the non-PPR league. I got Justin Herbert, Nick Chubb. Obviously, Gibson already played. DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, Amari Cooper, Robert Tonyan, Chris Carson, Saints defense, and Tyler Bass. And my benches as followed: Allen Robinson, Myles Gaskin, Marvin Jones Jr., Tyler Boyd, Damian Harris, and Corey Davis. That's the lineup right now. Injury report is relatively clean. If you're in a situation like I am, and you have an injury at all to any of your guys, or you don't know to play, I'm personally putting Chris Carson in at flex over Allen Robinson. I know neither defense is really that good. I just like Chris Carson better. He had a better week last week, and Tennessee's defense isn't good, and I just don't trust the Bears and Andy Dalton at all. I just don't. So I'm putting Chris Carson at a flex. I know Robert Tonyan had a bad week last week, and some people are already kind of giving up on him, but it's Detroit. They don't have a good defense. I would not be scared at all with Detroit. I think it's a bounce-back week for him, and I think it's a bounce-back week, frankly, for a lot of Packers players. And then as for PPR League, I'm losing now. I'm losing 27 to nothing. Terry McLaurin had a big day, 11 catches, 107 yards, and a touchdown. I had no players going, so I still got the rest of my team going. So that's at least a good sign. But I'm projected to lose 137 to 127. My opponent has a 53% chance of winning, so hopefully that changes. But in this league, I got Ryan Tannehill, Alvin Kamara, Chris Carson, A.J. Brown, Adam Thielen, Robert Tonyan, Amari Cooper, Saints defense, and Tyler Bass. And this league, on the other hand, a little bit more injuries. And my bench is Tyler Boyd, Trey Sermon, J.D. McKissic got a big game. I was talking to somebody today, I would never have predicted J.D. McKissic to go out and put up 20 fantasy points. I mean, I just would have never. Hindsight 2020, I'm sitting here today and I'm like, oh, I should have put J.D. McKissic in. But I'm thinking to myself, that thought never crossed my mind. J.D. McKissic, the backup running back for Washington, and last week he got 0.8 points. He didn't even get one full point. He got 0.8. I would never thought to put him in, but he had 20 points. Then Marvin Jones Jr., Jameson Crowder, Devontae Booker, and Gabriel Davis. Booker got 2 points on my bench. Doesn't mean anything, but that's that. Injury update is as followed. Good news for the Jets. Jameson Crowder, groin, remain limited in practice Friday and is questionable for Sunday's game against New England. Rich Cimini of ESPN.com reports. Good news because he got activated off the COVID IL list, or COVID IR rather, so he should be good to go. And then as for Gabriel Davis, he's questionable as well. Davis' ankle remained limited in practice Friday and is listed as questionable for Sunday's matchup with Miami. So, as much as you don't want to see injuries, it is lucky that these are depth guys, not, starters. These are just guys on my bench, so that's at least positive. But there's always going to be injuries. It's just the nature of football. And as for fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning 260 to 151. So if everything holds up, I'll be in the championship game. But still got today, tomorrow, and Sunday to decide that. So hopefully I can hold the lead. I got Will Smith going, Matt Olson, Whit Merrifield, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa, Gene Segura, Austin Riley, Christian Yelich, Austin Meadows, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Margot, Josh Harrison, and Luke Voigt. I still got to make some changes. I got to put in Marcus Simeon, so I'm going to do that right now. I'll put him there. So right now it's Segura now at utility and Simeon at second base shortstop. I might have to go out and pick up another left fielder or outfielder. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do exactly with that yet, but we'll decide that. And I got no pitchers going, but I did make an acquisition. So I did make a fantasy move. So the other day, I dropped Eduardo Escobar and actually added Michael Brantley, but Michael Brantley's on the IL. So that's an injury update. Brantley was placed on 10-day injury list Wednesday with right knee soreness. Chandler Rome with the Houston Chronicle reports. So he's out. So I added him for him to go on the IL, which I'm actually kind of disappointed in because probably by the time he gets off the IL, the season will be over in terms of fantasy. So I guess it's not, I guess it's not terrible, but I do have Nicky Lopez, so I added Nicky Lopez. He's actually rostered in plus 13.9% of leagues, 51.4 overall. He's been really good. 3, -2, 6.53. He's batting .300 this season, 69 runs scored, 2 home runs, 39 RBIs, and 20 stolen bases. His position ranks 13. He averages 2 points per game. So that's who I added. He's my lineup. No pitchers going today. I figured I'm winning by 100, not getting ahead of myself, but I am winning by 100, so I didn't want to go out and drop an unnecessary pitcher just to bring in a guy. I figured I got Cole on Sunday. I think I got some pitchers maybe going tomorrow, so I'm not going to panic with the pitching because I do like my pitchers now, and I don't want to drop someone unnecessary, then someone else come in and pick them up. And then as for the MLB, yesterday the Cheaters won, Phillies won, Rays won, Padres won, A's won, Angels won, Reds won. The Yankees lost yesterday 3-2 the Orioles, and the Yankees moved to 82-65 on the season. And as for today, we got the Nationals, Rockies. I'll give Nationals the win. Blue Jays, Twins give Blue Jays the win. Dodgers, Reds give Dodgers the win. Red Sox, Orioles give Red Sox the win. Marlins, Pirates give Marlins the win. Rays, Tigers give Rays the win. Rangers, White Sox give White Sox the win. Cubs, Brewers give Brewers the win. Astros, Diamondbacks give Cheaters the win. Mariners, Royals give Mariners the win. Cardinals, Padres give Cardinals the win. Angels, A's give A's the win. And Giants, Braves give Giants the win. Mets also play today. Mets come in this game against the Phillies at 72-75. Phillies come in this game 74-72. This game goes on today, 7:10 p.m. Eastern on SNY. Phillies got Zach Wheeler on the mound. He's 13-9 with a 2.86 ERA. And the Mets got Taijuan Walker on the mound. He's 7-9 with a 4.29 ERA. The over-under is set at 7.5. And 72% of people think the Phillies will win. I do think the Phillies will win. Yankees also play today against the Indians. Yankees come in this game 82-65. Indians come in this game 71-73. This game was on today, 7:05 Eastern on Pix 11. The Indians got Zach Plesac on the mound. He's 10-5 with a 4.45 ERA. And the Yankees got Corey Kluber on the mound. He's 4-3 with a 4.02 ERA. The over-under for this game is set at 9. 57% of people think the Yankees will win. I actually think it'll be a tough game. I don't know if we're going to win this game, actually. It's going to be a tough game. And then college football. Should be some great college football games over the weekend. We got Miami, Michigan State. We'll get to that. Clemson, Georgia Tech. I'll give Clemson the win. Some big games over the weekend. Cincinnati, I'll give them a win. Coastal Carolina, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Michigan, Virginia, Tech. All give them wins. I do think Virginia Tech wins even though they're the underdogs. Notre Dame, we give them a win. Iowa win. Ohio State win. Arkansas win. Georgia win. Oregon win. North Carolina win. Ole Miss win. I actually think BYU will win. Iowa State win. And UCLA. Now, some of the big games. You got the game in terms of SEC, Alabama versus Florida. Both these games come in this game 2-0. Alabama ranked first-ranked team in the nation, and Florida ranked the 11th-ranked team in the nation. Alabama comes in this game 14.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 59.5. This game goes on tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern on CBS. I do think Alabama wins, but I think it's going to be pretty good. 64% of people think Alabama wins. I think they're definitely Alabama's best competition this season. And the real big game is Penn State-Auburn whiteout game at Penn State. Penn State comes in this game as 10th-ranked team in the nation. Auburn, 22nd-ranked team in the nation. Both teams are 2-0. Penn State is 5-point favorites. The over-under is 52.5. This game goes on tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern on ABC. 71% of people actually think Auburn will win the game. I think Penn State wins the game. And I'll tell you this, strictly because of home field advantage. Whiteout is one of the great spectacles in all of sports and one of the greatest things in college football. And it is extremely hard to win on a whiteout game. I mean, the crowd's insanely loud. Not an easy place to play in general. One of the biggest American sports stadiums. It's not going to be easy. I think actually Penn State wins that. I don't know if I fully trust Bo Nix yet. I don't know. He's had some ups and downs, and he's been good this season, but I don't know if I fully trust him. I do think Penn State wins, though. And as for Miami plays against Michigan State. Miami comes to the game 1-1. Michigan State comes into this game 2-0. This game goes on tomorrow, 12 Eastern on ABC. Miami 6.5-point favorites. The over/under is 56.5. 80% of people think Michigan State will win this game. I think Miami will win. Might as well, right? I mean, they haven't played great, but I mean, either way, we'll see. It should be an interesting one. Miami's not played good football. I mean, we haven't. We have not played good football at all. And last week, barely beating Appalachian State. You go to week 1 getting smoked against Alabama, which is expected. I mean, let's be honest here. I don't think many people expected Miami to beat Alabama. There's maybe always that little bit of hope, but I don't think many people expected Miami to beat Alabama. And, it was close against Appalachian State. I mean, Miami, it is what it is. I mean, we're not the same team we once were. I mean, 3 years ago even. I do think, coaching changes could be needed. I think there's a lot of questionable play calling. I just think overall, just the team's not playing with the aggressiveness as we once were, if you follow what I'm saying. But we'll see. Great weekend of college football. The NFL is going to be good as well, but I mean, there's some really good college football games, and there's going to be a lot of prospects on display this week as well, which is always why it's good to watch college football too, because talking about guys that could be playing Saturdays this year, but very well next year could be playing on Sundays with an NFL team. So a lot of good prospects on display this week. You got Bryce Young, probably his best opponent he's played in his young college career here. Auburn, Penn State. I mean, you're talking about that's a really good game. Just going to be a great game. We'll see if Clemson can continue to win. Clemson's going to need to win out. They're going to need to win the rest of their games, and they're going to win the ACC if they want any chance of college football playoff. And they're going to need movement within Georgia and all those teams. And another question I have too is, not it's a really question, but Oregon with a big win last week against Ohio State. I think Oregon's a very good team. I think they probably will make the college football playoff. But a question is can they go out and win that game comfortably? It's a big win against Ohio State, monumental win, talking about maybe one of the first Pac-12 teams to make it in like 4 years. Are you fully focused on this game? Because we've seen times where teams get big wins and they can never fully shift their mindset to the next week, and you see a hangover game, and you see a game where you lose because you just come out flat. We will really find a lot about Oregon this week, especially. I've always said that about teams. When they win a big game, that's great. But you find a lot about the team and the coaching the week after. Can they come back just as focused and just as aggressive and just talented and overall playing really well? Or do they come out flat and maybe not as much energy and aggressiveness? We'll find out. Because on paper, if you look at it, Oregon should win this game. I mean, it's Oregon against Stony Brook, okay? They are 42-point favorites. This should be a win. But if you play slow and your head's not fully in the game, this could turn into not an upset, but maybe a game that should be closer than what it should be. So, I think that would be good. But we'll see. We'll see how everything else plays out. But should be a good week. Good week of college football, good week of NFL. Also baseball as well on this weekend. Yankees pivotal series against Cleveland. I'll tell you this. If the Yankees lose two against three. If the Yankees lose 2 out of 3 this weekend against Cleveland, we could call the season over. Because just based off of just the Red Sox playing the Orioles and then the Blue Jays, whoever they're playing, whatever. Either way, just based off of that, we'll probably be like 2 games out of the wild card at that point. You could even possibly see the Mariners jumping us. If we lose this weekend, 2 out of 3, worst case gets swept, season's over, we're looking towards next year. We're looking at a new manager next year. We're looking at a new roster. We're looking at a lot of guys that are on the roster now that won't be on the roster next season. That's if we lose this weekend. Now, if we come in this weekend and sweep them, playoff hope's still alive. But Yankees got to win. I mean, we have to win now. Not much season left. Season ends October 3rd. You got to win now. So that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. As always, as you all know, I take breaks on the weekend. So should be another good weekend of sports coming up. Enjoy your weekend. All good sports on. Go Jets. Hopefully Yankees can turn things around, and hopefully the Yankees can, get the series win, and hopefully the Jets can get on the board and get their first win of the season. That'll do it for the podcast here today. As always, I will see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.